Hi, Mary. Can you hear me?
Yes, good afternoon.
Hi, Mary. My name is Brenda Mcdonough. I work for the Commission on Disability. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Brenda.
Thank you. Hey, Mary Beth.
Hi, Brenda, how are you?
Great, thanks. Hi, Augie.
Hi.
Can you see both of us?
I see only a piece of Augie.
All right, I'll come over.
How can you do full screen one?
I see you now, Augie.
This here?
No, other one.
This one looks like full.
No.
Yes.
All right. There you
All right.
go. There you go.
Come over a little bit more.
No, I'm good. I'm in the camera.
But you can only see half your head.
Yeah, I don't know. The camera might be broken. So.
No, I can see you fully now, Augie. Yep, that looks great. Now, Mary Beth. Let's see you. I see your fur on your boots.
I don't want to be seen. Oh, you can see my boots?
Yeah.
Oh. I have to like pretzel myself. It's just how I'm comfortable.
Because probably because the camera's tilted down. That's probably why.
How do we turn up the volume, Maggie?
Just pushing the keyboard there. There's a button there. Line button. Like, look at.
Hi, Vincent.
Here?
Hi.
Yeah.
My name is Brenda Mcdonough. I work for the Nantucket Commission on Disability.
You're on mute, Vince.
Say volume.
Yeah.
Mary's,
No, it's good.
Mary, this is Mary Beth and Augie, two of our commissioners.
Hi.
All right.
Just,
Can you hear us, Vince?
Yes, I can. Sorry.
Okay, that's great. All right.
Good to meet everyone.
It's the right one. It's the right speaker button.
show me where.
Right there, back there.
Hit this?
No, yeah, right
This?
there.
Mary Beth, I think that Augie should be where you are and you should be where Augie is.
You
There you
He
think?
knows about the
No.
computer.
Oh, yeah, I know, but he
That's
can't
what I
reach
mean.
it. Yeah.
Okay,
right.
Nikki's coming in.
I can't get too close because the bed's right there.
Yeah.
There.
Why are you way back there?
Because I don't want to be on the camera.
I don't
Hey,
want to be on camera either.
Can't really get in here though.
Mickey, can you hear us?
I can.
Okay, perfect.
So we got Mary Beth and Augie.
Yep.
Yep, I talked to Georgia and I talked to Jeanette. They're both going to be on it, Nikki.
Okay,
I mean, I just spoke with them in the last 30 minutes,
good.
which was a good thing for Georgia.
That's true.
Georgia goes, I remembered, and then I forgot, and then I remembered, and now I forgot again. So thank you for telling me.
Yep.
Yep, Nikki, do you know Vince and Mary?
Yes. Hi, Vince and Mary.
Hi, Mickey.
Nice to see you again.
Yes.
Good to meet you.
We're waiting for two more commissioners before you guys can begin, okay?
Yeah.
And we have a couple of minutes till 3.
Yeah.
Right.
So how's everybody enjoying the day today?
Good.
Okay, how's your mom?
Thanks for asking, Mary Beth. She has hospice services now,
Yeah.
and she's really approaching the very last stage of Alzheimer's right now at home. So, just we have a Zoom meeting with the family at 5:30 tonight. So, but she's comfortable, she's sweet, she's wonderful, she's not in pain or anything. So, I mean, those are all the positives, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yep. So there you go.
Sorry, yeah.
Yeah, I know, Mary Beth. I'm there too, but I really appreciate you asking. I just want you to know that. Okay, here comes Jeanette.
Hello.
Hey, Jeanette.
Hi, how are you? Took me a
Great,
while
thank
to
you.
get in here. Sorry.
That's okay.
All right.
We got one more, Georgia. Jeanette, do you know Vince Murphy?
I don't, I've seen him, I think, presenting something for the town.
Okay, and Mary Longacre, that's correct, right?
I
Mary,
know
your
Mary
last name?
Longacre,
Yep,
yes.
there you go.
Hi, Jeanette.
Hi there.
Good to see you.
Good to be seen. I want to know what's your connection to Nantucket? Were you a
Mine?
kid?
I have a very long history of just about every connection you can imagine to Nantucket. So
I've seen you at different things and I just wondered if you were here when you were younger.
I was, yeah, I spent a little bit of time in school here, but not a full year at any given point. Summers here, holidays here, lived here year round after graduating college, and then left for a while and came back when I could afford to.
Good, yeah. Thank you. You satisfied that question for me.
How you doing, Jeanette?
I'm doing fine, thank you. I'm got both shots and I'm supposed to be going and meeting people for lunch tomorrow.
Oh, awesome.
And I've gotten some hugs from my family.
Very nice.
I like it.
They've got their shots and I've got mine, so.
There you go. I'm getting my second one on Monday.
And how's Steve doing?
Steve's great. He's got both shots. He's down in Florida right now golfing with 11 other guys.
Oh, good.
Yeah, exactly. Golfing, or is he drinking beers? Oh,
Either way.
Same
he's
thing,
both
right?
good time.
yeah, it goes hand in hand with this group. See was like, oh, I'm not going to have a beer until after I finish golf every day. And they're like, yeah, right.
I believe they call it the 19th green.
Exactly.
Yep.
You don't
Well, that
sound like
19th
you're,
green-
from Ireland, are you, Vince?
Yeah, I'll go over that in a second. I've had a long and complicated history, and I'm not on island all that long.
Well, my mother-in-law was from County Cork, Mayo, and Parish of Killamina.
Oh, I know Killamina. Believe it or not, in 2012, I helped a company called what are they called? Vodafone, same as Verizon, put up a cell tower in Killamina. I ended up doing a planning application there.
Oh, well, we went there years ago for one of our anniversaries. I don't know, it was 35th or 40 or whatever. And my husband found his mother's homestead.
Oh, gee.
Wow.
He had a cousin there that he didn't know he had. So he was very excited
Oh, that's
to see
wonderful.
all of that. But they were cooking, they were using peat for heat. So they weren't very, affluent, I should say. So,
Reminds me of home.
yeah, I know her, and she was a lovely lady.
Okay, I did talk to Georgia, Jeanette. She is fine.
Okay,
Yep, exactly. And she said she was going to be on, and I talked to her about 20 minutes ago. Hopefully she didn't forget.
well, I know there was one way it said I had an invite and I had to answer it, and then it came the regular way, and so I figured maybe she's having the same problem.
Oh, sorry.
But no, it's just a different way. Each time is different, so.
We have a quorum, so just to get this business over with, I'm going to open the meeting. And well, I'll read the script and then we'll open the meeting. So as a preliminary matter, this is Mickey Rowland, Chair of the Nantucket Commission on Disability. Permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. When I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Mary Beth,
Yes.
Augie,
Yes.
and Jeanette. Just, you there? Oh,
I'm trying to mute or unmute. What am I doing?
you're good now. Nope, there you go.
Yep.
You're here. I see you.
Here comes Georgia.
Hi, Brenda.
Hey, Georgia.
How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good.
Hi, Georgia.
Hi, Mickey. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? I'm in the middle of the script and I just want to confirm that you're here. Are you here?
I'm here now.
Okay, thank you.
I made it.
So, and then the staff, as I call your name, Brenda,
Here.
and anticipated speakers, Vince Murphy
Here.
and Mary Longacre.
Good afternoon.
Thank you. So this open meeting of the Nantucket Commission on Disabilities being conducted remotely consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of the COVID-19 virus, we have been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings. And as such, the governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order which you can find posted with the agenda materials for this meeting allows public comment entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will not feature public comment. For this meeting, the Commission on Disability is convening by video conference via Zoom app is posted on the town's website identifying how the public may join in. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that all attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you and take care not to share your screen. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. All public materials that have been provided members of this body are available on the town's website unless otherwise noted. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless I note otherwise. We are not turning to the first agenda item. Before we do so, we need to cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and ensure accurate meeting minutes. I will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, the chair will get on the list of members, inviting each to provide any comment, questions, or motions. Please hold until your name is called. Also, please remember to mute your phone or computer when you're not speaking. Please remember to speak clearly in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any response, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you and state your name before speaking. If members wish to engage in a conversation with other members, please do so through the chair, taking care to identify yourself. Finally, each vote taken at this meeting will be conducted by a roll call vote. All right. So we're opening the meeting. It's 3:05. We will adopt the agenda as written. And there's nobody else except for the speakers here from the public. So I'm going to say there's no public comment. Do we want to try to approve some minutes from the last meeting in December? Did you
Sure.
send those? You sent those, Brenda, right?
Yes.
Yeah, she did.
Okay. Are there any comments about the past minutes?
No,
No.
I move that we approve them.
Second.
I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor, Mary Beth,
Aye.
Augie,
I,
Georgia,
Yes.
and Jeanette. Oh, that would look like an aye.
It
And
is,
I'll-
I can't decide to leave it on or not.
You're good.
Okay.
And that's an aye for me too. So moving on to our agenda, we have under new business, Vince Murphy and Mary Longacre to present the town's coastal resiliency plan. So I'll turn it over to you guys.
If I can introduce what Vince is going to do. The town has allocated funds a couple of years ago to develop a coastal resilience plan. That was a recommendation that came out of the hazard mitigation plan that was also adopted a couple of years ago. And one of the goals of the plan is to make sure that it covers the entire county and all of the people who have a perspective on life on Nantucket. The town hired a group of consultants led by the group Arcadis, and Arcadis has given us a sort of a meeting toolkit, and Vince is going to present that. We're both here. I am the chair of the Coastal Resilience Advisory Committee. Vince is the Coastal Resilience Coordinator and a town employee. We're able to answer questions about the process, but mostly what I want to emphasize is that we are committed to outreach to the entire community. And so anything that you can do to assist in letting people know that the town is building a coastal resilience plan, letting people know that they have the opportunity for input to provide their perspective, their questions, their suggestions. And Vince will tell you some of the ways that that can be done. So I'm going to turn it over to Vince.
Thank you very much, Mary. If I could ask the chair a very simple question, how long would you like me to speak for? I can tailor my time. I can go for about 20 minutes and then take questions, or shorter, 15 minutes, whatever.
No, I think 20 is probably fine. We have a pretty short agenda. We just have one other agenda item after this. So go ahead and say what you feel comfortable with in terms of the time limit.
Thank you. All right, so I'm just going to introduce myself very, very briefly, partly because you might notice I speak with an accent. So this is my usual point of saying, if you have trouble following me or understanding me or any of the colloquialisms I use, by all means stop me and ask for clarification or ask me to repeat. I have no problem doing that. So Vince Murphy, Coastal Resilience Coordinator at the town of Nantucket. I've been in this job about a year and a half. Or just a little over that. And in that time, working with the Coast Resiliency Advisory Committee, we developed the outline for how the town is going to get a coast resilience plan. We created an RFP, we posted it, hired consultants, and since September, just gone, we have started the development of the plan. Plan is due for delivery in September of this year. So one of the things that the consultants gave to us recently is a presentation toolkit. There's elements in this that are for the person who's meant to give it. Anyone in the community can take this from the town website and use this presentation. And I can share a link for this either during or after the presentation so that everyone can have this have this material. So there's 3 or 4 slides that I'll have to skip over at one point, just so very early on, because that's just directions for a person who would give it. And I have read them, so we're all okay. So just going to share my screen, and it's in the form of a PDF. And I'm sorry to say I'm going to have to go between 2 screens because the higher quality one is not the one with the camera on. So just to give you a bit of background on me and my work, grew up in Ireland, finished high school, qualified as a chef, hated working indoors, decided I'd like to work outdoors, and when I was 23, I decided to go back to college, and I left Ireland for the first time, went to England, got a degree in wildlife management and conservation biology, finished that in 2007. Decided after that, and in the midst of a financial crisis, a good thing to do would be to hide in a university for a few more years. So I got a master's degree in ecosystem conservation and landscape management. And that took me through various universities in Europe. It was an Erasmus degree. And so I started at my home university, University College Cork, in the south of Ireland. The next place I went to, I spent 6 months in the University of Utrecht in the Netherlands. I'm sorry, Mary, you've heard all this before. Then I went, studied the flooding and the flood control measures that they had in the Netherlands at the time. Later, I moved to University of Helsinki in Finland, spent almost 6 months there through the almost Arctic winter. Then finished up by going back to University College of Ireland in Galway in the West Coast to round out the teaching section before working on a reintroduction project for white-tailed sea eagles going from Norway back to Ireland. So finished that and worked as an environmental consultant after my master's for about 7 years. About halfway through that time frame, I started a PhD in applied ecology. So all my background is in ecology, but I have a substantial amount of information and background in this kind of stuff, partly from my master's and partly from my consultancy days. So my wife also has a PhD. She came to, she went to Mount Holyoke, left there and met me during the master's. We did that together and toured around to the universities together. She then stayed in Ireland and decided she would like, after her PhD, decided she'd like to live in America as an adult, as she said. So we moved to Arizona. And we spent almost a year in Arizona. She did her postdoctoral work there, and at which time she wanted to move closer to her family in Massachusetts. So we moved to, she got a job with Murray Mitchell Association, and that brought us to Nantucket. Shortly thereafter, I got work with the town. As a bird guy, I was the guy who closed down the beaches to driving and looked after the covers. But that led on to this job later on. So since July 2019, I've been the Coastal Resilience Coordinator. So that brings us to the Coastal Resilience Plan. And what we're looking at on screen here is a PDF that anyone can download and give this presentation. Let's talk about the major players for 1 second. We have this symbol here, which is Act Local with the Coastal Resilience underbar. That is for the town of Nantucket's coastal resilience planning efforts. Coastal Resilience Advisory Committee, who Mary represents here today, and then we have the consultants involved in the Coastal Resilience Plan. So I'm just going to skip these slides because they're directional for anyone that wants to give it, and just go straight into the meat and veg of the presentation, if you mind. So this presentation will help answer some simple questions. What is a Coastal Resilience Plan? What are the risks facing Nantucket? What do we mean when we say resilience? And how will this plan help Nantucket become more resilient? That's the kind of real goal. We have to become more resilient as a community. And how will the project team continue to work with us after the fact? That is something that is kind of more for myself and the Coastal Resilience Advisory Committee. So one of the things that the consultants developed early on was this mission statement, and we tend to read it at the start of all of meetings with town boards, committees and commissions, as well as other interest groups. It gives everyone a level understanding of what the purpose of a coastal resilience plan is. So if you don't mind, I'd like to read it. The Coastal Resilience Plan draws on the cherished built and natural heritage of Nantucket, supported roadmap to implementation for a series of layered flood controls and adaptation approaches that lessens the losses from storm surge and helps the community adapt to rising seas and eroding coastlines. In coordination with the ongoing adaptation and sustainability initiatives, the plan addresses the whole island and county, as Mary said, while respecting the unique characteristics of each neighbourhood. Driven by the inclusive and equitable engagement of all, the plan aspires to create social, environmental and economic benefits and value to everyone who will share in Nantucket's future. I just love that statement. So we now have some understanding of what this is about. It's coastal flooding, erosion, sea level rise, and what we can do to mitigate the worst impacts of some of those things and make this a fair plan for everyone. So we have the basic question, what is a CRP, what goes into it? So the goal of the Coastal Resilience Plan is to develop a comprehensive plan for the whole island and the whole island that addresses. So let's talk a little bit about coastal erosion first. Everyone goes down to the south shore, you look over the wall, there's a vertical drop, that's erosion. Sea level rise, this is the insidious one of the group. This is the one that bothers me most and is going to cause more problems going forward. We've already seen about 8 inches of sea level rise between 1965 and 2019 in Nantucket. But the thing is, sea level rise isn't linear, it's exponential. It's going to increase in speed and severity in the coming decades. And we also have coastal flooding. Any coastal storm event will bring that on. So the process will include identifying important community assets, assessing vulnerability to flooding along the coast, identify actions to reduce flood and erosion risk, evaluating these options and developing resilience and adaptation responses that prioritize and ready to begin the process of implementation by the town and other community members. So I like to look at this chart a lot because this kind of is a hub of how things work for me in some ways. So these are the core principles of the CRP that Coastal Resilience Advisory Committee, the various consultants and other town staff have contributed to. So it's all about honouring community heritage and identity through adaptation. We have to do it the Nantucket way, and that's what Holly Backus likes to say a lot. Addressing resilience at multiple scales. We have, as you come in off the Highline Ferry and walk up the town, we have a gradient. We have to look at it in those scales first, where water will reach first, but it's also at the time scale as well. We're going to have the impacts of this increasing and getting worse over time. So inclusive and responsive community engagement. We started the engagement in December, And it's a part of the plan that was meant to kind of tail off around February. But then we looked at it again and we thought, well, that's not really good enough now, is it? And so that was one of the reasons why this toolkit got developed, so that we could look at increasing engagement right to the end of the plan. So the engagement is now going to be for the length of the plan, pretty much. And then we want to bring a commitment to implementation. This is going to be my fun job after the plan is delivered in September. Where do I find money for implementation, and then which plans first? And this is something that we're going to get a ranked list with, but the Coastal Resilience Advisory Committee is going to have quite an awful lot of say on as well. So working in close collaboration with the town, the Coastal Resilience Advisory Committee, the project team of engineers, architects, landscape architects, ecologists, I'm one of those, but also project team, and planners bring years of experience in resilience through New England and around the world. So effectively it's the town and the Coastal Resilience Advisory Committee working together with the consultants. The main consultant, the lead, is Arcadis. They're a Dutch company. They have been around for as a company since the late 1700s, but in their current form since the Zuider Zee in the Netherlands was looked at and thought, let's turn that into land. So they've been involved in those kind of works with the Dutch government for about 130 years. Stas, which is an engineering company, One Architecture, which is a landscape and engineering company, and the Craig Group. The Craig Group are particularly important for a number of reasons. They are historical consultants. They're also working on a different resilience plan for the town at the moment, looking at on a plan called Resilient Nantucket Designs for Adaptation. It's a project that's looking at historic buildings and structures, and then the historic landmark status of the whole island, and how to make sure we don't lose much of our historic character. They're one of the co-consultants on that, and we're quite lucky, just to turn a fortune as it is, that they're on this plan as well. It means we have a bridge between two of the biggest plans happening on island at the moment. So the CRP builds on a significant amount of planning for resilience in Nantucket that has already occurred in recent years. Several studies are running in parallel to the CRP, namely Resilient Nantucket Designs for Adaptation, which is Designs for Adaptation, which I was talking about, and Envision Resilience Nantucket. The CRP team is working closely with these partners. The Envision Resilience Nantucket project is run by Remain, and that is for colleges and universities to come up with all kinds of things that might work for the town, the harbour, the island. It's a design challenge and is more conceptual in nature. But we also have to remember, as well as these plans that are ongoing, we have to build on the plans we've already had over time. Mary mentioned one of them, the hazard mitigation plan. Holly Backus is the town's mitigation planner, and she was the one that coordinated this plan. We've also have another one here. This is was produced and delivered to the town in January 2019. This is the Coastal Risk Assessment and Resilience Strategies. This has been a very useful document to the Coastal Resilience Advisory Committee. We also have the 2014 Coastal Management Plan, that's that one. And then there's the Harbour Management Plan as well. We're using all these historic documents, not to have the Coastal Resilience Plan just be its own independent thing, but to build on previous plans so that we can have them all work in concert. So, big one. What are the risks that Nantucket faces? Some of these might look like familiar images to some of you if you've ever been downtown just after a flood. Coastal storms bring coastal storm surge, and that increases the frequency and intensity, bringing impacts of storm surge to our front doors. So this causes streets we know to flood. So this is obviously Easy Street, Washington Street, Harbourview Way, Easton Street. These streets also very regularly flood. But this is one of the things that I want to ask this commission towards the end. Once you're walking around downtown, once you're trying to navigate your way from one place to another, what are the impacts, these kind of impacts that affect you most? Coastal erosion on our bluffs, dunes, and beaches continues to rapidly progress, threatening our homes, infrastructure, and natural resources. On next Wednesday, I'm working on a project where we're going to try and stabilize the dune. And I can talk about that more later if people want to ask questions about Millie's Bridge area. Sea level rise, the new nemesis. It is exacerbating island-wide coastal high tide flooding and erosion over time. So it's going to bring more flooding, that's obvious, but as the sea level comes up on coastal banks, it'll cause coastal banks to erode at higher elevation at a higher rate as well. So that'll bring more erosion. So these are some things we kind of know. Coastal risk is not new to Nantucket. Low-lying areas, we know, flood. Storm surge or even storm tide stacking due to coastal storms and nor'easters are things that we know a little bit about. In recent memory, Winter Storm Riley and Grayson, both in February 2018, caused widespread flooding and erosion and damaged and inundating roads and natural resources. This is a picture I took on Oak Street showing the barriers and doorways after the storm that sadly saw water. So this is how Nantucket looks in one of those terrible storm events like Winter Storm Grayson in 2018 or the no-name storm in 1991. This is represents the 1% annual flood chance. This is about as high as water can go at the moment. That's about the simplest way of explaining this map. The next one is for the year 2070 and what may happen at that point. My understanding is that this is if we see a high level, NOAA give projections, they give 6 different scenarios. The second highest is high. And this is this projection looking at what a storm in 2070 would do. It would effectively double the amount of water in the Nantucket area. All of Co2 becomes covered, and Sackage Pond and Pulpus Harbour area see an awful lot more water coming up into those areas. The downtown area sees more water as well, but because of the bank between Union Street and Orange Street is the most noticeable place to see it. That's one of the factors why that doesn't go too much further inland. So erosion. Erosion is one of the things I like to talk about most. Erosion is exacerbated by, and in turn exacerbates the risks. This is what I was saying about water coming up higher, eroding banks further. It's a natural process and poses a direct risk to buildings, infrastructure, and natural resources, especially during major storm events. The rates of erosion and shoreline change are increasing over time due to sea level rise and the potential for more frequent and intense storms. As a result, beaches, dunes, and bluffs are changing, affecting access to the beach and threatening buildings and infrastructure. One of the questions I'd like to ask this group in particular later is about access to the beach, please. So why does this matter? So we're going to have to learn to live with water in some ways, and evolving shorelines are part of it. This means to spend time. Living with water and evolving shorelines are part of what it means to spend time on Nantucket. This is something Nantucket knows about, but we're going to have to expect more water and in different places. However, climate change is accelerating natural processes and causing storms and other events that we are not prepared for. We must take urgent action to adapt Nantucket to climate change and ensure that the island is safe and resilient for future generations. So in a context where risk is increasing and evolving, our resilience is our adaptability and to change, adapt, and respond. This takes about 5 different categories. We'll have to look at physical changes, social, institutional and governmental, economic change, and environmental. We're going to have to change our ideas about what this island might have to be in the future. how will the coastal resilience plan help Nantucket become more resilient? We're nearly getting towards the end of this now, I promise. Creating a toolkit for potential coastal resilience infrastructure. We're looking at the kind of things that might work. Would these be levees, berms, or buried flood walls? Should we be looking at shoreline armoring and stabilization, just as a question? Evaluating streets and elevated streets and protected buildings. That's something that I talk about a lot, about elevating streets, particularly to keep pace with sea level rise, and also breakwaters. We have jetties here in Nantucket. When you go to Hyannis on the ferry, just as you enter Hyannis Harbour, there's a huge breakwater on the left-hand side, on the western side as you enter. That's quite nice to see, and I use it as an example a lot. And these are just some of the simple things we may consider, not recommendations at this stage. So exploring how Nantucket can build with nature to protect its unique environment and characteristics. I like to talk about green infrastructure more than anything. So this is an image here showing what a living shoreline might look like, putting in a lot of planted grass and shell fisheries within the water's edge, and also planting eelgrass. All of these things can be used to take the energy out of waves. Living breakwaters. Breakwaters are these either floating or permanently anchored bars out in the water, and you can put vegetation on them, native vegetation and dune type structures on them, or they can just be like a suspended reef and have algae and seaweeds dangling from them and create habitat for fish, but they in themselves are shelter belts behind which will stop erosion. Eelgrass restoration and wave attenuation, putting large eelgrass beds into the water area. So eelgrass is very good at absorbing some of the energy because it's rooted, and taking some of the energy out of a wave, not all of it, but some of it. And planting for coastal erosion, planting dune grasses to stop the upper dune area being taken away as quickly. So creating new policies and tools, including for property owners and residents. I must give, before I get onto this, a shout to the Coastal Resiliency Advisory Committee that created a brochure that fits into this category, by the way. They created a brochure for homeowners that was shown at the select board on Wednesday night by Mary. So we have to look at new policies and regulations. We have to look at zoning. Where should we and can we permit housing? Where should we have a change of use for potential future sea level rise? Wetlands are a very good way of taking up energy and filtering water and increasing water quality, but they also just are very good at stopping wave energy getting quite far inland. So improve coordination across public and private sector entities. This is something we're getting to do more and more on Nantucket. We're already looking at some public-private partnerships, particularly with one group called Acclimate, but that's on a policy kind of level. And we work with lots of consultants and state and federal agencies to try and create understanding of the unique challenges Nantucket faces, and also how to get grant money here to try and resolve some of these issues. This is the homeowner's guide and education on how to build resilience in households or businesses. This was published, was it last summer, the summer before? I can't remember, Mary. Was it summer 2020 or 2019? I don't remember.
I think it was 2020.
It's quite new data, and thank you, Mary. The Coastal Resiliency Advisory Committee uses this now as well. It's been a very useful document. So providing a detailed roadmap of prioritized steps Nantucket can take forward for implementation. So this is just how we might move forward. We need a clear understanding of risk. We already know some of the areas at risk, but where's going to be at risk with sea level rise, the new nemesis? We have to a community engaged in conversation about these risks and what they can do about it, and working together. We also have evaluation of options for increased resilience, adaptation to change, and climate enhancing value. This is one of the main goals in some ways of the Coastal Resiliency Advisory Committee, but other committees, including the Select Board, and if you guys wish, this committee as well, can look at some of these options. And then there's going to be a roadmap to prioritize steps Nantucket can take toward implementation. I'm just going to super quickly go over where we are with the Coastal Resilience Plan now. How will the CRP team continue to work together with you? At the moment, the Coastal Resilience Plan is towards mid to late March. So we've already had plenty of the public engagement. We've done the listening tour. We have launched an app that I'm going to talk about next, and we're getting onto the phase 2 of public engagement, part of which is the virtual meeting toolkit. At the moment, the group is also going over the risk assessment, and sometime in May or June, they're going to present some of the results from the risk assessment in April, sorry, they're going to present some of those as the mid-project report, but they're going to take those and look at what we can do for coming up with some solutions, either infrastructure, green infrastructure, policies, and even potentially bylaws. And then we can take those to the public workshop and see what people think at that point in the second workshop. And then we can just move forward for implementation. So this toolkit here that I'm presenting is one of the ways of giving feedback, but if people wish, you can also download this app. I have it on my phone, and it's one of the ways of providing information to Arcadis about your particular concerns. You can use the GPS on your phone and go to an area of the downtown or South Shore or wherever you're worried about, and drop a pin and then fill in a little easy form saying, what are you worried about? Are you worried about access to a particular area, or are you worried about sea level rise?
Let me just jump in for a minute here. The unique thing about this app is it allows the public to give 24/7 feedback. You don't have to wait and come to a scheduled meeting, which may not be a convenient place or time. You don't have to hunt down a person. You're able to, when you're in the moment, say, hey, I just had an idea, a suggestion, I see a problem, and you're able to input that if you have a mobile device that can have the app on it. And I'm hoping that will lead to a lot more public engagement because it's at people's convenience.
There's one other thing we're working on as well. This has been developed, this is freely available. It's the storytelling cards. It's to give information on what you like about Nantucket now. And then the second card is how you see Nantucket in the future. What might develop here? What might happen here? So I must say that this presentation and these storytelling cards and a set of frequently asked questions in a sheet that all go together as one package are available in both English and Spanish if people wish. That is more or less the body of the presentation. The next section is for questions and discussion. And the way that this works is I'm just going to press this and hopefully you will see the presentation continue, but I can scroll through and we can ask the questions and I can fill out the form with some of your answers. So let's just see if this works. Hopefully you're still seeing the presentation.
We're seeing the website.
Okay, let's just continue with this so because it's the same questions that are in both. So this this is just this is for committee to answer, for this commission to answer. I'm just going to pose the question, and this is the question and answer segment. And then if there's anything else, we can get to that too. So what areas concern you most as to flooding and erosion?
You want us to answer?
Yes, please.
Well, for me, it's everywhere, the whole island. There's no one specific place. I'm an older lady now, and I've been here since I was a baby. And I've seen so much change, it's just hard to even project, except for people like Jeanette, who've been here longer, I suspect. But I also have we recently found a video of the No Name Storm downtown. If anybody has interest, some very interesting flooding, especially coming down the Stone Hill that came to the Stone Hill coming down towards Jetty's Beach. The water came over from the galley and down from there and went out at Brant Point. So it's pretty amazing footage. So, but so no, I mean, I've seen so much change. It's just hard to even put it in words. So no, I would say downtown, but the South Shore, watching it retreat even more. The Hummock Pond Road used to go way out, way past there when I was a child.
Mhm.
There were also no houses out there. Just lots of change in the water. You know, there's always going to be change, but it has accelerated dramatically. Would you not agree, Jeanette?
I would agree. Am I opened? Can you hear me?
Yep.
I agree, and I know that I would go for a ride with my daughter out to Nantucket and how much of the erosion in the past year has happened there. And
Yep.
I'm also concerned about the Point area. I'm
Yep.
involved with the timeshare on Swain Street, and we've had flooding there and have to recoup or redo our apartments or timeshare apartments. And that's where I think a lot of it's going. My question is, how is the Easy Street bulkhead? Is that helping at all or not?
Yes, it is. So the bulkhead that's immediately adjacent to the sidewalk, going from North Wharf down, that one was built to a specific height. The purpose of it wasn't to stop flooding, it was for wave attenuation, so that waves would break on it and then waves wouldn't get to the buildings or onto the street and stop cars getting by. But still, once you get 6 inches of water there, that's impassable. That's kind of one of the more serious problems on Easy Street or any of the streets like like Washington Street or Harborview Way. Once you get 6 inches of water, that's it. I can't drive there.
Nope.
And Vince, you mentioned eelgrass, and I know years back when my husband and I were doing commercial scalloping, there was lots of eelgrass, but it seems to have disappeared, hasn't it? Or not?
It's not doing as well as it used to. That's certainly the truth. So I'm in the Natural Resources Department, and it's people in the hatchery, which is part of the Natural Resources Department, that know most about it. So I only pick up things from them, so I can't speak with any great authority other than the mapped eelgrass beds are far smaller and far fewer than they were 30 to 40 years ago. Like they've been contracting over time. There's a handful of problems. There's green crabs in the harbor that shouldn't be there. They're Asian green crabs. There's an awful lot of dredging. Dredging is an activity that does disturb eelgrass. You're looking for scallops because that's what the scallops want to be. So there are issues like that, but it's all about, you know, maintaining the fishery, making sure we can still have scallops, as well as making sure we can still have eelgrass. We have to try and create the balancing act for both.
Thank you.
Anybody else have some thoughts, comments? Vince, I would just state that in the, you know, I think generally our concerns in this group are access, disabled access, wheelchair access, smooth sidewalks, things like that. And, you know, what is the and continued flooding? How is that going to affect maybe the quality or even the ability to provide, you know, sufficient access throughout town? I assume that eventually at some point roads may have to be raised. I mean, especially down to the waterfront area. What that looks like, I'm not sure if it's going to be piers or actual roadways. And as the roads are lifted, the buildings have to be coordinated with that at the same time. So what, you know, it seems like a mind-boggling coordination program to lift buildings and roadways all at once to maintain not just access for everybody, but you know, good ADA type access for the community.
That's
If I can jump in, Vince, that's one of the reasons why we wanted to make sure that we spoke directly to this committee, for two reasons, really. One is so that you have a voice in making sure that the planned, that any solution proposed by the plan includes disabled access for whatever that might be. So things like not replacing a ramp with steps, I'm not an authority, so I don't know what all of the specific concerns are. But the other is that each of these proposed solutions, whatever they may be, comes with an opportunity to get a twofer. In other words, to not just do something that's protective, but to do something that increases the public's ability to enjoy whatever area we're looking at. And so if there are areas where the island does not provide enough access, but the island would consider some kind of a project there, how do we include enhanced public access in that project? So there are both sides of it. One is not to lose any access that's necessary, but the other is to build new access, or to at least have that perspective represented in the conversation about how to execute a project.
Okay, that sounds encouraging, at least the possible benefits. I mean, that's something you don't hear too often. Vince, I'm gonna, if you don't mind, can I ask you to stop sharing the screen so we can see each other a little bit better? Thank you.
I can read out questions and keep typing if people wish.
Perfect.
I did have another question, and that's about Ramp Point. Ramp Point, was it last year or the year before, became an island, which has not happened in my lifetime before. Is there, I mean, that's just one place it seems they could do something to build that up. So at least you could even get to Ramp Point, which in that storm you couldn't. By land, by walking anyway, it was underwater.
Georgia, which storm are you referring to?
I don't remember. It's when Ramp Point became an island. It was completely surrounded by water.
Was that,
It
maybe
was
like
last year or the year
last
before.
year.
It was
Okay.
recently. Yeah, it was recent.
Well, in the no-name storm, it was submerged. So that was.
Yeah.
Yes, everything was submerged there. That was hopefully our once in a century storm.
Right.
That's one of the challenges that I recognize is that, that storm that we had, the two storms, Hurricane Bob and the no-name storm that we had in 1991, those
Yeah.
are 30 years ago now. And there
Yeah.
are many people here who don't remember them. I was
No.
here, I remember them. And so there are people who don't recognize
I know.
how easy it is to have
Yeah.
significant water. So getting those, on the ground firsthand stories is really important for sharing that message of how close we are to the edge in terms of water coming in and really having a significant impact.
That's how we learned that you don't drive a four-wheel drive car in salt water. It's not very good for your wheel bearings. All of which we had to repair all of them 1 week later. They
Yeah.
all had to be, I didn't realize how fast that could happen. So, but I had teenage boys.
So you found out.
Oh yeah, we found out a lot of stuff those years. So, but that was the most amazing thing. And one of the last bad storms, I guess maybe when it was the Ramp Point, it was so bad. And I thought, still not as bad as what I remember in the no-name storm, which was incredible.
I'd love to see the video that you have. Is it online or is it a home
No,
video?
it's on my computer. My son just found it. He took it. He was 13 or 14.
It'd be
and,
great to get that to Vince.
I'd love
Yeah,
that.
we were actually, I was with somebody, we were down on the wharf pulling, he was the last boat that got pulled out before the major storm hit. And so the water was popping up all the boards on the walkway out on the wharf. That was thrilling. I'm like, let's go. They're all excited. I was having a heart attack, but yeah. And he took some other photos along the way too. So, he had a video camera. It was a new video camera. So that's,
Georgia,
I'll send it to you.
yeah, is that something you could share with us? I would love
Sure,
to see
I
that
can.
too.
Can I just forgive
It's
my,
not professional, just so you know. It's a kid took it, but anyway, yes.
Now, I was gonna say, forgive my ignorance, but why is it called the no-name storm? Is it because it was only a storm here and no one else bothered?
It was called the perfect storm.
Oh,
That's what it was. We called it the no name because they didn't predict it.
okay.
Nobody really realized what was happening until it really happened. So
Okay.
yeah, it was called Perfect Storm. Isn't that the book or a movie or something about it? Yeah.
It's great.
That's
Oh,
what
okay,
it was.
yeah, I've seen the movie, okay, yeah.
And I
Jeanette?
came and looked at my house the next day and everybody yelled at me, we're in a state of emergency and you're looking at houses. So, but I got it anyway, so.
We were in Florida for that storm and Jack called Roger, Jack worked for the electric company and Jack called
Yeah.
Roger Roach, who was the president, when he heard that he'd shut down Main Street and sent everybody home. Jack said never. So he had to call and apologize to Roger that it had happened in Nantucket.
Yep, yep. There were boats out there.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
really wild. Were you here, Mickey, then?
My office was down on Washington Street and
That's what I thought, yeah.
we had to leave. We were there throughout the beginning of the storm and the floodwaters came up and a dinghy floated. We were surrounded, but a dinghy happened to float by. We grabbed. So a couple hours later, we left the office by way of a dinghy up towards Coffin Street.
Oh, gee.
And that's actually one of the concepts that's out there is, what if some of our streets were canals? Is that something
Yeah.
we learn to live with water that way? And so there are many, bright ideas that people have, but hearing a story about, how it actually worked is a lot more powerful than somebody saying, we should be Venice,
Right.
There are a lot of ways that we can connect with people. And this is the kind of thing that we want to make sure filters back to the consultants who are working on the plan, where they hear about things that were done in the past, or they hear about things that people would consider as a reasonable alternative, and also things that people would not consider as a reasonable alternative. One person said, we're not moving Main Street, but that's a really good point. Somebody just looking at a map would say, well, the bottom of Main Street's going to be all wet. You need to leave, and we don't know if we do or not, but that's a perspective to consider.
I think people should also be reminded that one reason the steamboat doesn't stay overnight during major storms on Nantucket is because during the no-name storm, they had to man the boat the whole time to keep it from floating into the parking lot because the water was so high.
There, at the Egan Institute has got a good, they had a good show of that movie of the no-name storm. And we were
Oh, yeah,
time and we couldn't believe how bad it was.
it
Saying
was
we were
crazy.
not on island, so we had no concept.
I didn't see the worst where I know the water went over the blue pylons down on the docks.
Wow.
I mean,
Wow.
that's a lot of water. So, yeah. But that,
Well,
I mean,
I love the storm stories, but could we let Vince have a few
No,
more
I-
to his questions?
I was just gonna say, the thing that illustrates though to people who were not around in those storms is what we are looking at as a possibility. That's what I think of when I think about the resiliency and the ideas that are possible I mean, like when you talk about all of around Brant Point and Hulbert Avenue, that's always, I remember visiting people there 25 years ago and their yards were completely submerged in water and those were not bad storms. So, yeah.
So I suppose what I'd like to get from this committee, if it's okay, is a sense of, with this committee is focused on disability, how would flooding issues, erosion issues, and potentially sea level rise issues making it worse affect your constituents, so to speak?
Well, for one thing, my son here, who's in a wheelchair, wouldn't be able to go anywhere.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Yeah. And he doesn't know how to man a gondola either.
Oh, I bet you could learn, Augie.
I'll learn.
Well, I think it's basically the same issues that we faced probably 20 years ago
Exactly.
when things weren't accessible in town.
Yeah, there is one thing that I do want to say. I know and I know that we're not talking about erosion and all that stuff, but I have this tank chair, and I went to Cisco Beach, and like there's like and there's like this a cliff that had to go down, but my tank chair can handle it though, but it's still scary going down it though, but it's hard to get down there for anybody who, wants to go to the beach because from the erosion.
Yeah, he
Right.
has another chair that you can go on the sand, so.
Sand basically, and like this big cliff that you have to go down
Okay.
now. Yeah.
Would ramps help that, Augie, for you with your wheelchair?
Well, I have another chair.
No,
Janet
asked if a ramp would help.
or a ramp. I don't know. I mean,
Because if
it's a pretty steep hill. I don't know.
I haven't seen it, so I don't know.
Yeah, but yeah, it's
I know I've been on the beach with, that drop off at the end of the
yeah,
road.
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
It's one thing to get down, but then
Right,
you have to get
That's
back
right.
yeah.
up is much
That's the
harder than
issue.
down.
Down is not hard. Getting back up is the issue. Yeah.
Yeah,
Even
luckily
floor, getting up off the floor.
Not to mention that. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. But, yeah.
There's no really good beach access that I'm aware of. I'm handicapped and I'm very limited now. And that's the thing I miss the most.
I see Jay's is pretty good.
Children's.
Where? The jetties? Yeah.
Yeah, Jay's.
Yeah. you can do
Jetties.
that. It's a long
Right.
walk. It's you have to have a wheelchair.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Do it.
Well,
Yeah. Yeah.
So can I ask a question about that? Because every summer for the last 4-ish years, I've had to help DPW with either the mat or the boards that
Yeah,
they
yeah, yeah.
area. And you still find those difficult, which is, if it's difficult, it's difficult. That's something I need to know about so I can try and work on it.
Yeah. Yeah, it seemed better. Yeah, it would be better if there was like wooden planks. I think that would be better for doing wheelchairs if it was like wood, instead of like the mat, the rubber kind of mat that they have. Probably better than this wood.
Yeah, Vince,
So-
we've discovered over the years that those Moby mats, they work fairly well when they're first installed, but because of maintenance and the sand building up and they get kind of lumpy, and they just don't, throughout the summer they get worse and worse. So
Yeah.
we try to discourage the town from installing new locations with Moby mats.
Yeah.
Yep.
So wooden planks. So I got a story about that. Every year, for the last 2 years, it was 2 years ago that some high school kids did, as part of, I think, a carpentry course, built a load of interlocking boardwalks that could just be put down on the beach each year. It has fallen off the DPW's radar to put it down on time as a problem, and they keep getting in trouble over this. So if they put it down in the end of March, like I've suggested to the DPW director, then they would be able to put it down before the bird breeding season. This is a problem, and this is kind of why I was involved at the time, because I was the protected species guy looking after the plovers. So there's little spaces between the boards, and the Natural Heritage for New England were worried that chicks, piping plover chicks, would fall down between the spaces in the boards and then not be able to get out. Then that's a mortality event that would kill those chicks. And so that's one of the reasons it wasn't done, because kind of concerned about the gaps in the boards, and also not putting it down early enough so that they were looking at putting it down more like June, in the middle of the bird breeding season. So I keep saying, do it in March when there isn't a problem. With that's something that I've been advising, but it would be, there's also the other side. We can still get bad storms in April and May, and then get washed up and destroyed. So it's a real balancing act to get it right.
So what size gap is your concern zone? I mean, how how small or big does it have to be for a chick to fall through those gaps?
Less than half an inch.
Really?
When the chicks hatch, they're tiny.
Wow.
Yeah, they're like little
Mm.
small marshmallows that you have on hot chocolate.
Okay, that is small.
That's
There's-
little.
Yeah.
Vince, can I ask you that if we did, if the boardwalks were installed in March or April, would the chicks, do you see the chicks nesting in around that area? So that would be a problem because you are advocating for them to be installed earlier?
Yes, please, I would like that. So where the Moby mat goes down would be pretty much the same route that the boards would go down. And
I like the boardwalk better than the Moby. I do not
I know.
want the Moby mats.
I understand that, but my point is, we've had nests within 25, 30 yards of that Moby mat. So once they hatch, they wander everywhere. Not that I should be getting into it now, but dogs are off leash are the biggest problem for them. The second biggest problem is tire tracks, and the third biggest problem is them getting stuck in things that they shouldn't be in. Everything from beach trash to boardwalks. So okay, I'm going to make a suggestion here for boardwalks at the inappropriate places at the appropriate time of year. Can I ask, while I'm typing this, what do I know this is changing gears? What do you value most about living on Nantucket?
Nantucket.
I was gonna say everything.
Everything.
Seriously, yeah.
It's the best place ever.
I have to ask you a question, Vince. Did you have a Jigs dinner on Wednesday?
I did what I do most every St. Patrick's Day, which is
So do we.
it involves too much of something.
Did you have Irish bread and peas pudding?
I made my my soda bread on Sunday and then stuck it in the freezer so that I would have it fresh on Wednesday.
Nice. Where are you from in Ireland?
Cork in the very south. It's
Mhm.
like the south and in the middle.
I have
It's-
friends in Bray and in Castlebar.
Oh, I know Bray very well.
Mhm.
Once upon a time, not that I should be discussing this here now.
No,
But,
another time. Yeah.
yeah.
What?
I spent one weekend a month in Bray for a year doing bird surveys because they were looking at putting an electrical interconnector between Wales and Ireland, and the landing point might have been there. The project never went ahead, but I got to know Bray very well. So you value pretty much everything about it, the island, every characteristic of the island.
It's a very beautiful. My kids used to say the problem with Nantucket is there's no ugly places. That even the dump was fairly attractive, which is kind of true. So, I mean, it's, you know.
I think one big plus is all our bike paths.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it's safer for people to come and with families, and encouraging families to come and use those,
Mhm.
not bring their cars.
I like all the hidden places, especially, you know, where you come upon a pond or a bit of a creek. Not too many of those, but there are some.
Well,
The hidden places that are off the beaten track.
in the beginning of the pandemic, I was walking with my daughters and found many other places that I never knew about, having lived here all my life.
Yeah.
You know, other trails, Peter Brace's, you know, books and
Yep.
stuff like that. Linda
Yep.
Lawrence.
I used to know all the streets, but I don't anymore.
Oh, you can't.
There's too many new streets coming up all the time. Don't know them anymore.
Augie, can I ask you what you value most about Nantucket?
I like the summer, you know, I like when, you know, I like going on the bike path, you know, I like to, you know,
Mm.
I like to hang out at the car wash. You know the guy that works there?
No, it's a,
Ron?
that's off top.
Yeah.
I think he would say also
I just like to hang out there because I
the sense of community.
Yeah, it's a community.
Yeah.
And when you
All
are
with the nice,
It's the
someone
people.
who does have vulnerabilities, you're, you know that people are going to take care of you.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It is a good community. It's a great community.
Yeah, it is. There's a lot of nice people.
Yep.
Yeah.
My dad always said it was the best place growing up
Yeah,
because of that, the community, sense of community.
yeah,
So,
exactly.
Brilliant. So,
And the car wash, of course.
the car wash. Yes.
Well, I know somebody that works there.
Yes, Vince, you were going to say something?
so this is only something that was been touched on a few times, and it's something I've noticed myself, and I suppose it's more of a question directly for Augie in some ways. I've got two small kids, and we end up pushing what's the Irish word is
Stroller.
stroller all
Yeah.
around the island. We walk everywhere. Like we live on Westchester Street and go down to Children's Beach playground pretty much most evenings. So one of the things is when you're going down there, you have to go on and off the sidewalks and onto the road. And
Yeah.
this is a floodplain. One
Yeah,
of the things that I've noticed is that when we get floods, water seeps down through the brickwork on the sidewalks, and tree roots bring them up, the bricks up, and all this kind of thing. So the sidewalks are all quite uneven, and my daughter hates it in the stroller at that point because she's been jostled all around the place. So what I figured out just from looking at the same route over and over again is it's a subsidence issue, because of these areas and what the brick the brick material is used for sidewalks. Is that something that you'd like to see changed or made more impermeable or more sturdy, just so that it would be a better surface?
I thought that they just did new sidewalks in that general area, but maybe not the specific area where you are, because they widened the sidewalks in that area on whatever street that is, I've forgotten.
Yeah, I go down east.
Big buckle at the time.
Anyway, you were saying, Augie?
He just said they buckle after time.
Yeah,
There were improvements made. He unfortunately hasn't been in town for,
Yeah, for a while.
let's say a year.
yeah,
A solid year.
yeah.
But the thing about him, us, sort of in general as a family, is that although we see life differently than most people do, than walking people do, but at the same time, so much respecting Nantucket and the history, we've always tried to walk the fine line between him and other people like him being able to enjoy, and yet preserving and keeping, the quaintness, the historical significance and beauty and whatnot. So, and it is a fine line, I think.
Definitely.
I totally agree with that. I find, I've had a balance issue and many other things. And, well, gee, that's not something I really think I can do, especially in town where the sidewalks go over the tree roots and things like that. It's
Very hard.
hard to do. You have to think about where you're going and where you can park and where you can walk. How can you go and not, be terrified you're going to fall, which is for me the issue.
Well,
So
I
yeah,
suppose-
that's an issue. But then I realize I agree with what you just said, Mary Beth, is that, it's part of the historical fabric of where we live, where we've chosen to be.
Yeah, and I think we've, learned to be grateful for the accessibility that there is, and nothing's perfect, and find another route of how you need to get somewhere or just a different place to go.
Exactly.
you
Yep.
know?
So I
Yep,
suppose this
exactly.
it feeds into the next and one of the last questions. What are the most important features of resilience or adaptation approaches the CRP might recommend, the Coastal Resilience Plan might recommend, like from your perspective?
I don't even know. I mean, because I wouldn't know what to say.
Yeah.
I mean,
So less flooding in some ways that could help with access.
Definitely.
I was gonna say,
If I could
you
make a suggestion based on what you just said, Mary Beth, about having to go somewhere else because you can't navigate the place that you intended to go.
Yeah.
Perhaps part of the coastal resilience plan would be creating more spaces which are accessible. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think so.
Sure.
Yeah, that would be great.
And if I can follow up on that, is there something other than a mobility challenge that this commission is aware of and advocates for solutions for?
Hold on, Dan.
Talk
Hold
about
on a
what-
second. Hold on. Yeah, okay.
Well, mobility is one of the issues, of course. It's the big one. It's the most obvious one. But we also try to accommodate people with sight impairments and hearing impairments. They're less clear and less obvious, so they're not as easy to deal with. I think, you know, I'm not sure how those are directly affected by issues we're talking about, as opposed to, you know, physical access. I think it's all kind of one package, and those are little pieces of the package.
Yeah.
And you know, I would say that generally people are aware of, you know, mobility and visual and audio impairments. I'm always asking, is there something I don't know anything about that I should know something about? So if there are other challenges, and you can always follow up with Vince afterward if you have a thought that isn't expressed today. You know, his email is on the town's website. The Coastal Resilience Plan has a page. Resilientack.org is kind of a shortcut to get to the town's website for all the resiliency efforts.
I think that most of the issues that we're concerned with are, you know, these days they're being dealt with fairly well. I mean, the town, the government agencies, the ADA has really become a prominent, you know, concern of everybody's. It's the law. I mean, they have to deal with it, and they're getting better at it. So, you know, most of our issues are fairly obvious. A lot of things fall through the cracks, and that's why we're around and try to address those too. But you know, most of our concerns, I think you're going to be aware of. You know, we need physical access to all the services and the community areas that we enjoy today. So, you know, once those start disappearing because of flooding, that's when, you know, maybe it's going to be more difficult for disabled people to participate than others if those things aren't anticipated and dealt with ahead of time.
Mickey, that does, a question occurs to me. So are you aware of anyone at any time who has been unable to use an accommodation because of something, you know, that was a temporary response to flooding, like sandbags or some corroded electrical circuits, or I don't know what? But I'm just wondering if you have any examples in mind of times when the accommodations that exist were not available because of flooding or erosion.
You know, I'm sure that's happened, but flooding so far has been pretty short term. You know, it comes and goes, and we all hunker down and wait for the floods to disappear. You know, it's a little different than a snowstorm, which might block access to the sidewalks for a day or two or more. So maybe somebody else in the group has other thoughts, but I can't think of anything in particular where flooding has been the cause of that, except for the obvious ones, that it's caused difficulties for everybody.
No, well, we don't live near any areas that are flooded, and we just wouldn't go out. Yeah.
I think the other question might be, have you ever experienced, or do you know of a time when emergency services weren't able to access somebody who needed help because of flooding or erosion?
Yeah.
No, I don't know of any, no. But
Not aware of it.
I can think of things from other storms so much, but not particularly just flooding, of where people have been trapped, inaccessible. People haven't known that they were in need because it was not accessible, but that was, again, I guess one time it was a few days before somebody who was elderly needed help and finally put a sign up in our upstairs window for help. But generally, I think that's, yeah.
I think maybe the police department or the fire department might be able to answer that question.
Yeah, yeah.
And again,
Yeah,
that may be a little bit, far afield from the purpose of the coastal resilience plan, but I'm fishing for those stories, I think is the way to put it, where a few people know about something that happened and it isn't widely known, but it exposes a vulnerability that we should be aware of.
Yeah, I think for the most part, the flooding, flooding in our eyes today is a short-term thing, but that's going to change. So we'll all have a different feeling about it in 10 or 20 years.
Yeah.
If we're around.
I was gonna say.
Hopefully.
Well, I'm only asking for 4 or 5, just so I can see all my grandchildren graduate high school. After that, I'm not asking for anything more.
I hope you get more, Jeanette, though.
I hope so too, but I'm not asking the good Lord for too much. My battery is low on this and I've just plugged it in and I don't know if it's gonna go or not, so.
Vince, were there other questions that you had?
I'm up to speed on everything now. I've been taking notes for the kind of last question, which is please use the space to record any additional comments or ideas. And I've been doing that. So a lot of things about sidewalks. Also understand that it's part of the historic fabric of the town that there are sidewalk issues. Once ADA access to buildings or flood access is not possible, sandbags and streets make passing more difficult. Flooding is a short-term problem these days. Flooding in the future is going to increase access issues for the disabled. Is there anything else anyone wants to add in the kind of general category?
What other, I don't know if this would be an issue or not, but as the boats, the steamboat and the High Line, the ferries, they're an important part of our communication on and off island, daily sometimes. So, we'll just that those industries have to keep track of this too, that we need access to the boats just like everybody else. And I'm sure they'll be aware of that, but that's just another issue to keep in mind.
So I'm different and kind of separate side note. Yes, the ferries and access to the waterfront are big parts of the coastal resilience plan. Separately, I'm working on a grant with some others in the town on a supply chain resilience study so that we can understand how all of our goods and services come and go to the island and what interruptions look like and cost. And then how can we make our supply chains, mainly the ferry services, more resilient. One of the things that I think we're going to have to deal with over time is our ferry is one of the first places to see impacts once we see winds over 30 miles an hour. Flooding isn't so much of an issue, but wind is. But what are we going to do? Is our ferry terminal even in the right place? And this is something that Mary and I like to talk about a lot. Should we have a second terminal? Should we have a backup terminal or some other location, because the current location isn't best suited? It's in a flood zone. Once you come off that ferry, you're into floodwaters potentially.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've already decided that it's not enough to check the weather when I make a boat reservation. I have to check the tide chart too, because I drive a little Fiat. And if it's a king tide and Easy Street is flooded, I'm not going to make the boat.
Right.
Yeah. Interesting.
Unless you're just going one way down a wrong way road, which in the winter I used to do to get my son to the boat at 6 o'clock in the morning. There was never anybody on Main Street, and I did enjoy driving wrong way couple times down there just for the hell of it. So.
There's too many cameras on Main Street now. There'll be
No,
video.
I know. I'll tell you, at 6 o'clock in February, not so much. It's not so much. Nobody's watching. But yes. Yep.
Okay, well, that's basically everything that I needed. Is there anything that you guys need from me?
Thank
Brenda,
you very much.
I can send you a
Thank you
link
both.
to the presentation. I can send you any other
Love that.
information.
Okay.
All right.
Uh,
And
I'm sorry, Vince, let me just add that, if you have a mailing list, if you have a constituency that you're in touch with, let them know about the coastal resilience plan process. Let them know about the app that they can use to give feedback.
Okay.
There will be another public session, probably on Zoom, although we would love to do something in person, coming up probably in June. And the success of the plan depends on the amount of input that we get into it. Because there's no way that an off-island consultant who's not
No.
able to spend much time here can really absorb what is so special about Nantucket. We're doing our best to communicate to them, and they're the technical experts that can propose solutions. But we really need them to be as Vince said, the Nantucket way.
Have you approached the Interfaith Council?
yes,
Okay, just wanted to know.
was it this day last week, Mary, or was it the week before, the Friday before, I can't remember, that we also met with Nantucket Equity Advocates? Was it this day last week?
I don't remember what day it is
It was
anymore.
a Friday.
Rolls into one another.
Yeah.
But you have met with the Interfaith Council?
We haven't met with them. We've been trying to email with them to try and organize that, but it hasn't
With
happened.
Max, yeah, Max Wolf, okay. I'll send a message on then,
Thank you, George.
Oh, I would really appreciate that. Thank you very much.
no problem, we can do that. Okay, thank you very much both for your time, that was
Thank
really
you.
good,
Yes, thank
really
you.
informative.
Thank you.
Yeah, really
Thank you
helpful.
very much.
Sorry that I took an hour and 20.
Problem. All right, so we're going to move on unless anybody else has any other comments for Vince and Mary, but I think we'll move on to the next agenda item, which is the land bank. And so as you're probably aware, the land bank has purchased Lucille Hayes's property up on overlooking Monomoy. And they are in the process of developing a plan to how to make that accessible and more usable to the public. So they developed a plan, and I guess maybe I will try to share my screen. You all received this plan, I assume, right?
We did.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I'll just try to walk you through it.
I thought I did, but I couldn't really find it, so let me look it up again.
Are you seeing that now?
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't know how closely you all looked at this, but
not very.
this down at the bottom, you can see where it says Orange Street and the
Yeah.
Milestone Road. This is right at the Rotary here.
Yeah,
And there's going to be a parking lot, a driveway and a parking lot coming in through the brush. You probably know about the new sidewalk bike path they've already put in.
Yeah.
So it'll cross that and connect to it. And that's the parking. To get up into the main part of the property, which is up at the top of the hill here. The general public is going to be encouraged to use these pathways, and those are going to be accessible paths. They're going to be made out of I believe cement or asphalt, but I think it's cement with pebbles rolled into the surface, so it'll look a little bit more pleasing, but still should be an accessible surface.
Yep, it says exposed aggregate concrete.
It won't
Sorry.
be rough. Will it be rough with the stones in it?
It'll be rough texture. I think there'll be little pebbles,
Okay.
but they'll be fixed. They won't be rolling around under your feet or tires.
Yeah. I just didn't know with your feet if you'd feel the bumps.
No, the plan that I sent, if you look through the whole plan, maybe like on the 6th or 7th page, they show like all the different surfaces that they're using.
Okay. Thank
They'll give you
you.
a picture of what they're using.
Now, if you're not able well, I guess if you're not able, if you're disabled and you can't use this bike path or the walking path, there is a roadway. It's probably going to be a dirt path, I'm guessing, unpaved tracks, they're calling them, to go right through the middle of the property. And there's going to be a gate to keep the general public out of it. We're still working with the land bank on their process for getting permission to open the gate and how to deal with that without necessarily having to get out of your car and do something physical like that. There should be some sort of access code and an automatic gate, but we're not real clear on the specifics on that, and have a letter into the land bank to get a little bit more detail on all of that. So that'll bring you up to the main area at the top of the hill, where they're going to keep a small cottage. They're going to take down the main house, which is in this location right here. This is the main Hayes house, and that's going to go away. But this is an old cottage with a covered porch wrapping around it. I don't believe they're going to provide access to the interior of the cottage, but there will be, shaded covered access to the porch. And there will also be, up on this side to the north of that, some picnic tables, and I guess a big lawn surrounding the knoll of the hill. And this all overlooks the harbor and Monomoy and the creeks. So it'll be a beautiful property. I think it's going to be a real, asset for everybody. And I'm pretty confident that the accessibility is going to be good. We have some questions down about the gate. But I think it's, I think it's, the land bank is pretty good about making their places usable for us. So
Right.
I don't know. Anybody have any questions about this?
No, all I know is it's a beautiful spot because I catered up there for the Hayeses years ago. And where's the house going to go? Do you know, Mickey? Are they tearing it down or?
Well, it's a big
Moving.
house. I don't know. I'm sure they're going to try to take it apart and move it, or pieces of it anyway. But
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of it gets just demolished.
Yeah.
So I sent an email out just before the meeting. I sent a list of questions to Jesse Bell, the assistant executive director of the land bank. And I'll just let you know when Mickey and I review the plans with Eric and Jesse, the questions that we had about it. Okay. So like Mickey showed us, where in that road that goes through is going to be like a service road for their service vehicles and for people that have to access the accessible parking space that's going to have an accessible surface. So this is kind of the gist of what they're thinking. They didn't have the specifics, so that's what we were looking for with the specifics. The gate is going to be locked. So the service vehicles will have access to getting in and out of the gate anytime they want. Now, say if you go there during the land bank hours, this was just like a plan that was discussed. There would be some kind of a box there where you would push a button, so to speak. It would call into the land bank. There'd be a direct line to make sure that, okay, you press like 13 on this control panel, and you get access into the gate will open and you can access the road and then to the accessible parking space. And I'm not sure once you want to exit, if you have to go through the same protocol. So we asked them, when somebody with a disability wants to visit the property, what is the plan to open the gate without the person getting out of the vehicle? And then we asked them to please provide directional signage to the accessible parking space via the service gate with explicit instructions how to open the gate during office hours and after office hours. And we were in the initial meeting with Eric and Jesse, they were proposing that once you made that phone call, like say like if it was on a Saturday or evenings or anything, it would automatically go to an automated voice system just for the gate, and they would say, please press 13 to access this property, So there would be an automated system of some kind that would be in play for people to access this property 24/7, just like everybody else can access it. So we asked them, how does somebody exit the gate also? What is the protocol for that? And then with the picnic tables here to the north of the viewing viewing platform there at the cottage, we just want to make sure there was accessible surfaces under the picnic table, surrounding a picnic table, and an accessible route to get to them, okay? And then they also have some benches along that same north side, along the path, and we just want to make sure there's accessible surfaces surrounding those benches so that everybody can enjoy, you know, a rest at those benches, okay? And it appears like when you go up the service road to access the accessible parking space, it looks as if it's going to intersect with the path that pedestrians are going to use. We just want to make sure that they provided great signage to let people know that are driving up there that they are going to be intersecting with a walking path, like make sure there's stop sign, make sure there's warnings that there's, that it's not just a straight shot to the accessible parking space. You actually have to go over that path. So that was important to us. And then, so initially when we met with Eric and Jesse, it wasn't, this is like almost like the final plan. They were talking about having some overlook areas, like maybe almost like a platform, or I'm not going to say gazebo, I don't want to, but something on that idea on maybe on one or two different areas, like to the northwest side of this property here. And when we got this, it didn't show anything like that. So I just asked them, do they plan on still having some overlook areas, or is this the cottage with the porch on it going to be the only overlook area they're going to have like that? So, and if they do provide an overlook area other than that cottage, then we want them to provide proper access to that overlook area. So those were our concerns when we reviewed this plan.
Did you say, Brenda, it was gonna be open 24/7?
Yep. Anyone
Are
can
they
have
not
access to
concerned
it.
about it becoming a party place?
You know, I don't, that, you have to ask the land bank about that, you know, how, yeah, so it is gonna be open. I think all the properties are mostly open 24/7 anyway, you know, and I guess if it becomes a party place, then they, you know, just have to deal with that.
Yeah, I
Okay,
just
okay.
figured, you know, I can see young people going there and doing like they do at the beaches,
Yeah, trash it.
but not, yeah, not my concern. I mean, to worry about.
No, that's something that they'll have to.
Right.
Well, in the summer, the police sit at the INM right across from it, so they have a good idea. They can see who's there.
Yeah,
You know, they're always sitting there in
Yeah.
front of the INM all summer long. In the winter, at night, I mean.
Yeah.
Okay, so any other questions about this project?
Just a quick one, do you know how long the pathway, you know, how long an area that is around there?
Wow. No, I don't. In terms of feet, I really,
Just curious, yeah,
Yeah.
just curious.
It's a lot of uphill to go when you're driving up, or not a lot, but some incline going up.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep.
What are the blue lines?
The blue lines, I'm pretty sure, those are just showing the setbacks from the wetlands.
Okay,
Nothing really to do with us.
yeah, got it. No, I was just curious.
Mhm.
Yeah.
All right, so that's that.
Great. Okay.
So I don't know that we have any other, does anybody have anything else they want to bring up?
Oh,
Not really.
No.
I'm good.
And I think we're done. Brenda?
well, I think I'm good, Mickey. I think I'm good.
We can't do parking permits.
No, so the way I've been doing parking permits as they come in, Mickey is, I'm reading them to make, should we say this over the
good.
online Zoom?
Yeah, that's
We're
fine.
doing executive, we're Mickey and Georgia doing the approval for the disabled parking permits. because this meeting is recorded, we could not do it during a meeting, because then we would be giving away like sensitive information that in confidential information, which we cannot do, right?
Somehow the airport gets off and we have our executive
because-
meeting. I don't know how.
Because you're live, right? And
Right.
then you probably turn off your live session.
Well, we're with NCTV, so that might make a difference too,
Yeah.
other than just Zoom.
This is 100% recorded, you know?
Right.
So since you're live, it might be a different story. And then when you go into executive session, you're not live then, I would imagine, George.
No, we're not.
you-
Yeah, we
yeah.
make sure they're shut off. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Okay.
All right, so I think we're done with our agenda unless anybody has anything else, but I'm just gonna otherwise ask for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Seconded,
Second it, Augie.
What?
Say, I second it.
I second it.
seconded by Augie. All those in
Yep.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, I think we're
Have a
good.
good weekend.
Thank
Have
you,
a good
guys.
weekend, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, thank you.
All right. thank you.
Ready.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
See you later.
I'm gonna end it.